The air in the office tasted like burnt ambition and old coffee. My hands, usually steady on the keyboard, trembled. Not from fear, not yet. From a cold, still kind of shock that seized the muscles and locked the breath in the chest. On the screen in front of me, a ledger. Lines of cold, hard numbers. Our company's numbers. Money in, money out. Only this money out wasn't for suppliers, wasn't for payroll, wasn't for the new server upgrade we desperately needed. It was a series of outgoing payments. Large, consistent payments. To a name that punched the air out of my lungs. Not a vendor. Not an employee. It was the name of a university. A prestigious, expensive medical school. And beside it in the memo line, a second name. Hers. Not her full name. Just a first name and a last initial. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was a universe collapsing into a single, damning line item on a spreadsheet. My husband's mistress. He was paying for her medical degree. With my company's money. The silence in the office pressed in, suddenly suffocating. Outside, city sounds, a distant siren, the grind of traffic, felt like they belonged to another world, a world that still made sense. Mine had just shattered. I traced the lines with a finger that feels alien, numb. The dates stretch back years. Starting small, then growing. Tuition payments, lab fees, living expenses coded subtly as consulting or miscellaneous. Expenses a ghost account I'd never noticed, buried deep in the subledgers. He was thorough. My husband, the man who shared my bed, my life, my company, he was meticulous in his betrayal. The betrayal wasn't just the affair. That was a knife in the heart, yes. But this was a different kind of violation. This was poison in the well. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was stealing from the very foundation we had built together, the business that was my lifeblood, my identity, my security. He was funding his escape route, his new life with her, using the bricks I had laid, the sweat I had poured. My company. Our company, the world thought. But it was mine. I started it, built it from nothing in a cramped spare bedroom with a dying laptop and a mountain of debt. He came in later, brought his business acumen, his connections, his easy charm. We made a good team. A formidable team. Or so I believed. He handled the finance side, the projections, the growth models. I handled the operations, the clients, the core business. We were a success story. The perfect power couple. All a lie. Every shared victory. Every anniversary toast. Every late night working side by side, tainted. Funded by a secret, ongoing theft to support another woman, another future. The rage doesn't come first. It's a slow burn, a cold ember in the gut. The first wave is disbelief. Then nausea. Then a profound, bone-deep humiliation.
How long?
How long had this been happening? How blind had I been? I scroll down, each entry a fresh wound. Thousands. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands, bleeding out of my business, funding her dream, their dream. A medical degree isn't cheap. He wasn't just paying for coffees and hotel rooms. He was investing in her future. Their future. With my money. The sheer audacity of it. The cold calculation. He wasn't just being weak or making a mistake. This was strategic. This was planned. This was a deliberate, sustained act of sabotage and theft, using the trust one had in him as a weapon. My breathing is shallow, ragged. The office feels small, airless. I need space. I need to think. But thinking is impossible. The numbers swim. Her name swims. His face, smiling, telling me he had a late meeting, telling me the numbers looked great this quarter. It swims before my eyes, distorted, monstrous. This isn't just about a cheating husband anymore. This is about my livelihood, my future, my sense of reality. He was systematically dismantling me, using the business I built brick by painstaking brick to finance the woman who would replace me. And he thought he would get away with it. He thought I would never see. The cold shock begins to give way to something harder, something sharper. A sliver of ice forms around that burning ember in my gut. He thinks he's safe. He thinks the money trail is buried deep enough. He thinks I'm just the wife who runs the boring back end of the business, too focused on operations to ever look closely at the financials he controls. He is wrong. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. The drive home is a blur. The city lights smear into streaks of color, meaningless against the monochrome landscape of my mind. The office key fob burns a hole in my pocket. The ledger entry is seared behind my eyelids. He's home. I can see the light on in the living room. The sight of his car in the driveway, usually a comfort, sends a fresh wave of nausea through me. He's in there, perhaps on the phone with her, perhaps just watching TV, living his double life under my roof, financed by my work. I don't confront him. Not yet. The coldness has settled fully now, pushing out the nausea, the humiliation. It's a protective shell, thin but strong. I move through the house like a ghost, quiet, unseen. I make polite small talk about my day. Watch him nod, preoccupied. He doesn't see the storm gathering behind my eyes. He only sees the same wife who left for the office this morning. Good. Let him be blind. That night, sleep is impossible. I lie awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing, a sound that used to soothe me, but now feels like a betrayal. Every breath he takes, every beat of his heart feels like a lie. I replay the ledger lines in my head. I calculate the total. It's staggering. Enough to cripple the company, if not kill it outright. Enough to set her up for life. He wasn't just playing house. He was building an empire of deceit, on my land, with my resources. The next few days are a brutal performance. I go to the office, I smile, I manage the team, I talk to clients. My hands still tremble sometimes when I'm alone, but in front of others, they are steady. My voice is level. No one sees the ice in my gut, the frantic calculations running behind my eyes.
Idee deeper.
Not through the company accounts directly. I know he monitors those, or at least the main dashboards. I use back channels. Old contacts from my pre-marriage finance days. Friends who owe me favors. Discretion is paramount. I need proof that is undeniable, untraceable back to my initial discovery through his systems. It takes time. Late nights hunched over my personal laptop after he's gone to bed, or early mornings before he wakes. Coffee becomes my constant companion. The office feels less like my domain and more like a battlefield where the enemy already occupies the high ground. The expenses aren't just tuition. There are smaller, consistent payments tagged to student housing, books and supplies, even travel grants. It's a complete financial ecosystem he's built for her. A gilded cage, or maybe a launching pad, built with my gold. The anger simmers beneath the surface, a volcanic pressure building. But the cold logic keeps it in check. Anger is a distraction. It makes you reckless. What I need is precision. What I need is a plan that doesn't just hurt him, but dismantles the entire structure of his betrayal. I learn about her. Dr. So-and-so. Her specialty. Where she's doing her residency. She's good by all accounts.
Rising fast.
A shining star. All paid for by me. The irony is a bitter pill I swallow daily. My work ethic, my long hours, my sacrifices to build this business, they were all indirectly funding her rise. He never talked about her, not directly. He was too careful. But little things now click into place. Late nights became more frequent. Business trips extended unexpectedly. His phone was always face down. My intuition screamed, but I buried it under the weight of trust and busy schedules. My fault, I tell myself.
No.
Not my fault. His choice. His deliberate, calculated choice. The early struggles are the hardest. The emotional weight is crushing. There are moments I sit in my office, the door locked, and just breathe, trying to keep the panic at bay. The urge to scream, to smash things is overwhelming. But I don't. I channel it. I channel it into focus. Into meticulous detail. I hire a private investigator. Someone completely outside our circle. Expensive, but necessary. I don't tell him about the affair. I tell him I suspect my husband is embezzling company funds, routing them through complex channels, and I need to trace the final destination. I provide the initial university name, the partial name from the memo line. He's good. Better than good. He confirms the full name, the address linked to the payments. Confirms she is indeed a medical student, now a resident. Confirms the payments align perfectly with her academic timeline and the cost of her education and living expenses. The report lands on my desk late one night. Hard copy, discreet. No digital trail. I read it under the dim desk lamp. It's factual, objective. It lays bare the extent of the financial entanglement, the exact amounts, the dates, the payee details. It connects my husband, through the company accounts, directly to the financial support of her entire professional ascent. Hundreds of thousands.
Stolen.
From me. This isn't just about a marriage anymore. This is fraud. Embezzlement. Using company funds for personal gain, disguised as business expenses. This could land him in jail. It could also destroy the company. And I built this company. It is my legacy. I won't let him destroy it on his way out the door to his new life. The crisis deepens. I talk to a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer, not yet. A corporate lawyer. Discreetly. Hypothetically. I explain the situation, omitting the personal details at first, focusing only on the financial irregularities. The lawyer is grim. Embezzlement. Significant amounts. Could involve tax fraud, depending on how it was booked. Serious charges. Then I mention the recipient. The funding of a third party's education. The lawyer's eyes narrow. Complicates things. Was this person aware the funds were potentially diverted? Were they complicit? That question hangs in the air. Was she complicit? Did she know the money funding her prestigious degree, her comfortable life during medical school and residency was stolen? Or did he weave a lie for her too? Tell her it was an investment, a loan from a friend, a bonus he'd earned? I don't know. But it matters. It matters legally. It matters for her future. And suddenly the path forward shifts. It's not just about getting the money back. It's not just about divorcing him. It's about justice. About dismantling the entire false reality they built. And maybe, just maybe, there's a way to do it that doesn't involve destroying my own company in the process. I start researching professional ethics, medical boards, disbarment procedures. When can a doctor lose their license? Financial impropriety. Fraudulent application information? Moral turpitude. Could she be held accountable? If she knew the money was stolen, was she a knowing participant in the fraud? Or even if she didn't know it was stolen from me, if he lied about the source, did he force her into a position of professional vulnerability? This is the midpoint shift. The pivot. The goal is no longer survival. It is calculated destruction of their shared future. Not out of petty revenge, though that burns too, but out of a cold, hard certainty that they should not get to build a life of success and respectability on a foundation of deceit and theft. The rising challenges multiply. The lawyer warns me that pursuing this angle is complex. It could still blow back on the company. It could be expensive. It could take years. And there's no guarantee the medical board would act, especially if she claims ignorance. But the private investigator finds something else. Digging into the funding sources for students at that specific medical school. Scholarships, grants, loans, and personal funds verification. Students have to declare their sources of income and financial support. If the source was misrepresented, if he claimed it was a personal gift, a loan, legitimate income, and he used company funds disguised as such, that could be a violation. A violation of the university's rules. A violation of professional conduct standards. Especially if the amounts were large enough to influence financial aid decisions or admission status. He didn't just pay her bills. He might have lied about how he was paying them on her behalf, to the university. And if she signed off on any of those documents, knowing the source was questionable or misrepresented. This is the turning point. This is the new determination. I don't go to the police with an embezzlement charge that might crater my business. I don't just file for divorce and fight for assets he's already stolen. I go after her professional license. I target the future he was building for her, using the money he stole from me. This requires a different kind of strategy. Less about recovering funds, more about presenting a case of moral and financial impropriety to the gatekeepers of her profession. It requires absolute certainty, irrefutable evidence. The deepening crisis is the isolation. I can't tell anyone my full plan. My friends see me stressed, distant. My family worries. My husband sees nothing, or pretends not to.
He's smug, relaxed. He thinks he's won.
He's got the business running smoothly with my money. He's got his mistress on the fast track to a lucrative career, funded by me, and he probably thinks I'm none the wiser or too weak to do anything about it. He starts making noises about wanting a divorce. He says we've grown apart.
He's gentle, almost sad about it.
The performance is sickening. He talks about an amicable split, figuring out the business. He suggests I buy him out, offering a pittance for his share, a share he's already been bleeding dry. He wants to leave me with a struggling company while he sails off into the sunset with his new doctor girlfriend, funded by my past and present earnings. I'll think about it, I say, my voice flat. He looks surprised by my lack of emotion. He probably expected tears, pleading. He doesn't see the steel. The process of gathering evidence for the medical board is agonizingly slow. Lawyers specializing in professional misconduct. Forensic accountants who can untangle the fraudulent transactions and link them explicitly to her declared sources of funds at the university. Every step is expensive, risky. I have to explain the full extent to this new legal team. The affair, the theft, the plan. They are cautious. This is complex, they say. She will deny knowing the source was stolen. Your husband will lie to protect them both. You are alleging fraud that could end her career and potentially expose him to criminal charges. Are you sure you want to do this? Am I sure?
Yes.
There is no doubt left. Not a speck. He stole my life, my security, my future, to build hers. This isn't just about money. It's about dismantling the lie. The rising challenges are immense. He notices I'm asking more questions about specific accounts, specific transfers. I have to pretend it's routine, a new internal audit. He gets suspicious. He starts moving money, hiding things more aggressively. But my team is already ahead of him. They've mirrored key financial records, secured electronic footprints before he could erase them all. It's a silent war, fought in the digital shadows of the company's servers.
The stress is physical now.
I lose weight. My hair thins. I run on pure adrenaline and cold fury. The goal feels impossibly distant, shrouded in legal procedures and bureaucratic hurdles. We build the case. It's a paper fortress. Thousands of pages of financial records, emails between my husband and the university admissions/financial aid office, intercepted with court orders based on the initial embezzlement evidence I provided, statements from my private investigator, expert analysis from the forensic accountant showing the clear link between the stolen company funds and the payments declared as personal income or gifts supporting her education. The core of the case against her isn't just that her education was paid for by stolen money. It's that she, or someone on her behalf, my husband, with her implicit or explicit knowledge, lied about the source of those funds to gain admission, financial aid, or maintain standing at the university. This is academic fraud, financial fraud, and potentially fraud affecting her professional licensing. It strikes at the heart of the ethical standards required of a medical professional. We filed a complaint with the State Medical Board and the University Ethics Committee. It's formal,
Cold.
clinical. It lays out the facts, the money trail, the misrepresentations. We provide the evidence.
The response is swift, terrifying.
Lawyers for the Mistress deny everything. They claim the funds were legitimate loans or gifts from my husband, from his personal funds, earned prior to or outside the marriage/business. They paint me as a scorned, unstable wife trying to ruin an innocent, successful woman out of jealousy. My husband provides statements supporting her story, committing perjury without blinking. The battle moves into formal proceedings. Depositions. Hearings. I have to sit in rooms with lawyers, answering questions about the most painful parts of my life, while they try to discredit me, to paint me as vengeful and unreliable. It's humiliating.
It's terrifying.
But I hold my ground. I stick to the facts. The numbers don't lie. The paper trail is damning. The hardest part is the waiting. The complaint is filed. The evidence is submitted. The arguments are made. Then, silence. Weeks stretch into months. I live in a state of hypervigilance, waiting for the next legal maneuver, the next lie from their side, the final decision that will either vindicate me or leave me utterly destroyed, having spent a fortune only to fail. Meanwhile, life with my husband is a carefully choreographed dance of avoidance and polite fictions. He knows something is happening. He's tense, asks pointed questions about my meetings, my expenses. He suspects I know about the money, but he clearly has no idea about the medical board complaint, about the specific angle I'm pursuing against her. He thinks I'm building a divorce case.
Good.
Let him underestimate me. Let him focus on defending himself against a fight he expects. The tension is a physical weight on my chest. I wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding. Every phone call feels like it could be the call. My company is stable, but the legal fees are astronomical. I am pouring everything I have, everything I am, into this singular, devastating gamble. There are moments of doubt. What if I lose? What if she walks away unscathed, her career intact, while I'm left bankrupt, divorced, and publicly humiliated? What if he manages to bury the trail, to lie his way out of it, to twist the narrative? My lawyers remind me of the strength of the evidence. The clear link between the company funds, the disguise of those funds, and the funding of her education. The potential misrepresentation to the university/board. It's strong, but not a guaranteed win. The final hearing date arrives. It's not a courtroom, but a sterile conference room at the medical board's offices. A panel of sober-faced professionals sits behind a long table. My lawyers are there. Her lawyers are there, flanking her. And he is there, my husband, sitting beside her. A picture of concerned support. He looks confident, almost smug. He gives me a look across the room. Pity?
Contempt?
He thinks he knows why I'm here. He thinks I'm making a last-ditch, desperate play to expose their affair and his financial misdeeds, hoping to cause a scandal that might hurt her reputation. He expects drama. He expects me to be emotional, messy. He doesn't know the focus of the case is not his infidelity, or even primarily his theft, but the implications of how that stolen money was used to fund her degree and the potential fraud in the reporting of those funds to the professional bodies. The air is thick with unspoken animosity. My lawyers present the case. They lay out the financial trail with cold precision. They detail the funds leaving my company's accounts, disguised as legitimate business expenses. They show how those funds directly correlate, in timing and amount, with her tuition bills and living expenses. They present the evidence suggesting these funds were reported to the university/financial aid office/licensing board in a misleading way. They don't dwell on the affair. They don't call him a cheating husband. They call him a commingler of funds, a potential co-conspirator in financial misrepresentation. They call her the recipient of potentially fraudulent funding, implying knowledge or willful ignorance. Her lawyers counter. They argue the funds were gifts from a wealthy benefactor, my husband, legitimately sourced from his personal assets accumulated before his involvement in my company. They produce documents, carefully crafted, I'm sure, attempting to show legitimate sources of wealth on his part, obscuring the timeline of his financial entanglement with my business. They emphasize her stellar academic record, her dedication to medicine, painting me as a jealous, vindictive woman trying to destroy an innocent professional out of spite. They call my husband to testify. He is smooth, confident. He lies under oath, coolly stating the funds were from his private investments, that I was aware of his gifts to support a promising young student he believed in. He meets my eyes briefly, a flicker of challenge, of triumph. He thinks he's winning. He thinks his lies are convincing. Then it's my turn. My lawyers walk me through the timeline of my business, its financial history, my husband's involvement, the structure of our accounts. I speak calmly, factually. I present the evidence from before he joined the company, showing my initial capital, my growth trajectory. I show how the significant financial outflows to the university only began after he took over managing the finances. I show the coding used to hide the expenses. I explain the impact on the business's health. I don't cry.
I don't yell.
I just present the truth, backed by irrefutable data. Their lawyers cross-examine me. They try to paint me as incompetent in business finances, easily confused. They ask about my emotional state, my knowledge of the affair. I acknowledge the personal pain, but pivot back to the facts. My emotional state is irrelevant to the fact that substantial company funds meant for payroll and operations, were systematically diverted to pay for Dr. Mistress's name, medical education, and living expenses. The documentation is clear. The dates match. The coding is fraudulent. The panel listens, their faces impassive. It's clinical, procedural, but the stakes feel like life and death. The final arguments are made. My lawyers emphasize the ethical implications for the medical profession. Can someone whose entire professional foundation was built on potentially stolen and misrepresented funds be trusted with patients' lives? Is this the standard the board wants to uphold? Her lawyers plead for leniency, stressing her dedication, her potential, the injustice of punishing her for something she might not have fully understood. Then, the panel retires to deliberate. The waiting room is a silent agony. My husband sits with her, whispering, looking annoyed. He still doesn't understand the depth of the pit I've dug for them. He thinks this is about me being angry about the money and the affair. He fundamentally misunderstands the nature of the force he unleashed when he chose theft and deceit over honesty. Hours crawl by. The air grows colder. My resolve hardens into something brittle, sharp. I don't know if I will win, but I know I fought with everything I had. A door opens. The panel re-enters the room. Everyone stands. The head of the panel, a woman with tired eyes, clears her throat. The silence is absolute. The panel has reviewed the evidence presented. She begins, her voice dry, official. Concerning the complaint against Dr. Mistress's full name, regarding the funding of her medical education and potential misrepresentation of financial support sources. My heart pounds against my ribs, a frantic drum. My hands are clasped so tightly my knuckles are white. I don't look at him. I don't look at her. I stare at the panel member's face. She continues, laying out their findings. They found clear evidence that a significant portion of the funds used to pay for her education and living expenses originated from the business accounts of my company name. They found compelling evidence suggesting these funds were disguised and potentially misrepresented as personal income or gifts from Mr. Husband's name in documentation submitted to the university and potentially during her licensing application process. While the panel acknowledges Dr. Mistress's name, academic achievements, and professional potential, she states, her voice unwavering, the ethical integrity of the medical profession is paramount. The evidence suggests a pattern of financial support obtained through means that, at minimum, involved significant deception regarding their source, and potentially involved outright fraud. She pauses.
Takes a breath.
This is it. Therefore, she announces, her voice ringing in the silent room, based on the evidence presented, the panel has concluded that Dr. Mistress's name, conduct, or the conduct undertaken on her behalf regarding the funding of her education and the reporting thereof, constitutes a violation of professional ethical standards and involves significant moral turpitude linked directly to financial impropriety. My breath catches. Effective immediately, she says, looking directly at the mistress, who is suddenly rigid, her face pale. Dr. Mistress's full name, medical license, is hereby revoked. She is disbarred from practicing medicine in this state. This decision is based on the findings of financial fraud and ethical violations uncovered during this investigation. The words hang in the air. Revoked.
Disbarred.
Silence. Then a small, choked sound from the mistress. She collapses back into her chair, looking stunned, devastated. Her face crumples. And my husband is frozen. Absolutely, utterly frozen. His eyes are wide, staring at the panel head, then at the mistress, then finally at me. The smugness is gone. The confidence has vanished. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. He never saw this coming. Not this. He expected a fight over money, a messy divorce, maybe even criminal charges against him. But he never, ever imagined I would target her career, the very foundation of the life he was building with her, using the precise instrument of his betrayal, the money, as the means of her destruction. He looks like a statue carved from ice. His mouth is slightly open, but no sound comes out. He understands in that moment the totality of what I have done. I haven't just hurt him, I've demolished his future, the one he built on lies and theft. I didn't just take back the money, I took away the price he paid for with it. He looks at me, and for the first time in years, I see not the confident liar, but the naked fear in his eyes. He is blindsided.
Completely.
He thought he held all the cards, controlled the narrative, controlled the money. He never realized I was playing a different game entirely, one where the rules were professional ethics and the stakes were not just money, but the right to practice a profession built on trust. He shakes his head slowly, a small, disbelieving movement. The mistress is sobbing quietly beside him. His perfect, stolen future is crumbling before his eyes, destroyed not by a vengeful wife focused on adultery, but by a cold, determined woman who used his own crime against the object of his affections in the most devastating way possible. The hearing room empties slowly. My lawyers are quiet, professional. They offer congratulations tempered. It's not a joyful victory. It's a cold, hard wind born of necessity. I walk out into the late afternoon sun. The air feels different. Lighter, maybe. But there's no taste of triumph. Just exhaustion. And a profound emptiness. I destroyed their world. But my own is still in pieces. My husband doesn't approach me. He's busy dealing with the sobbing, disbarred doctor whose future he just accidentally ruined even further by funding it with stolen money. He chose theft over honesty, and it cost them both everything. The aftermath is messy. The divorce proceeds quickly. He has no leverage left. His reputation is in tatters, whispered about among his contacts. The exposure of the embezzlement, even just in the context of the medical board hearing, makes him radioactive. He loses his position in the company. There's no fighting for it now. I keep the business, battered but alive. It will take years to recover financially, to rebuild trust with clients and employees who eventually learn fragments of the truth. The mistress disappears from public life. A disbarred doctor with a cloud of financial fraud hanging over her is unlikely to find easy footing elsewhere. Her future, the one he paid for with my money, is gone. My husband is left with nothing. No mistress, no future with her, his reputation ruined, facing potential legal repercussions for the embezzlement and perjury. He is a broken man, a consequence of his own deceit. I don't feel victorious. There's no swell of triumphant music, no feeling of sweet revenge. There's just a quiet, bone-deep weariness. I saved my company. I delivered a form of justice, cold and unsparing. I defended what was mine. But the cost was immense. The years of betrayal, the isolation, the crushing stress, they leave scars. The man I loved was a stranger, a thief. The future I thought I had with him was an illusion. Rebuilding is slow. It's harder than building from scratch the first time because the foundation was poisoned. I have to scrub away the residue of his lies, his theft, his presence. The company recovers, slowly. My focus shifts from survival to stability, then eventually back to growth. I am more cautious now, more guarded. Trust is a word I use sparingly. Sometimes, late at night in the quiet house that is now solely mine, I think about that ledger page. That single-line item that shattered everything. And I think about the look on his face when the panel announced their decision. The shock, the dawning horror, the complete, utter devastation of realizing that the elaborate, deceitful castle he built was not just flimsy, but constructed using the very materials that would ensure its collapse. He stole my money to build her future. I used the trail of that stolen money to ensure she had none, and in doing so, I dismantled his. It wasn't a win that brought joy, but a win that brought silence. A cold, hard peace. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.